Mark,
Oh, yeah, he's a commissioner.
Mark,
Dan DeVito has joined as well.
okay. Mark, would you read the oath?
Sure.
Mark,
Yes, I got you. Commissioners. Raymond Antonacci, Richard Antonetti.
no, I want you to read the opening, Mark, to the virtual meeting.
Okay. I will read the presentation in terms of the meeting. This is a web-based virtual meeting. We are operating under the following procedures. This session is being recorded, both video and audio. Art Massoud and Michael Simmons will be meeting administrators. A line to the video audio will be posted to the town's website. Most people attending will be muted. Commission and staff will not be muted. Individuals will be unmuted at the time they are recognized to ask a question or make presentations. Presentations may be made by applicants or their agents as permitted by the commission. Other attendees will be permitted to speak only during the public hearing portion of the meeting. Commissioners and staff will generally be keeping video of themselves throughout the meeting unless they are attending via telephone only. Applicants and members of the public should feel free to leave their video on or off. They will be asked to turn their video on while speaking. During public hearings, individuals desiring to speak will be asked to state their names and give their home addresses. We will read the public hearing rules at the start of the first public hearing. Please use the chat feature to raise your hand to know that you'd like to speak. If an applicant or agent needs to submit duplicate documents that were not distributed in advance of the meeting, the application will be continued to the next meeting. Members of the public may only speak during a public hearing. Okay, that's it.
Okay. I'd like to open up the meeting, planning and zoning virtual meeting, December 2nd, 2020, approximately 6:35. Calling the meeting to order. Carol, would you please do the roll? Carol, are you there? Mark, can you?
I'll do the roll.
Go ahead.
Raymond Antonacci, Richard Antonetti,
Here.
Ken Demers. Here. Daniel DeVito, sorry. Daniel DeVito? No. Daniel Gelati?
They're mostly muted, they have to unmute.
They're
They'll have to
muted.
unmute themselves and speak. Right now, they've all been muted.
Commissioners that are muted, please unmute yourselves. Daniel Gelati, Lou Esposito, Bob Marinero, Dave Pope, Lou Cavallo,
Here.
and Diesel.
I'd like to put the Commissioner Marinero in for Commissioner Esposito. So noted, I hope.
So noted.
Let's move on with the minutes. The next is acceptance of minutes, regular meeting for November 4th, 2020. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes? Guys, you have to unmute yourself so we can hear you. I need somebody to make a motion to accept the minutes.
I make a motion to accept the minutes.
That's Commissioner Cavallo. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
The motion has been seconded by Commissioner Marinero. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? Abstention, motion is carried unanimously. The next matter is staff report. Mark?
Yes, we're in the process of doing a POCD update. We've sent out a survey to all the stakeholders. All the commission members have received one. We'd appreciate if you could pay attention to that and respond back to it. In the process of revising our stormwater regulations, just to put it on your radar, we'll have further information on that. If you might have seen, the Kmart Plaza is moving along very nicely. There was a nice article in the Waterbury paper, and we expect tenants to open in the next couple of months. The town, we also have a Facebook page to help the commission get the word out about the various projects that are taking place in town. If you could look for that and like it and become members, it'd be greatly appreciated. Anybody, any questions for me?
Any questions? Any questions? Hearing none, let us move on. I must have skipped public participation. Is there any public participation tonight? Is there anyone here from the public? Anyone here from the public?
Yes, we're here. Sandy Alves.
Mike?
Who's here?
Sandy Alves.
Mike.
Anybody from the public?
Yeah, they got two mics open, two people speaking.
Regular public.
Go ahead, sir. Would you please state your name and address? Sir, would you state your name?
Sandy, Alexander Alves, 6 Nova Scotia Hill Road, Watertown, Connecticut. I'm here for the meeting.
Good. Would you like to speak, sir?
No, thanks. Sorry. I thought you were just trying to check in with us. Sorry.
No, if you'd like to say something, we'll be more than happy to listen.
No, we're totally good. Waiting to get to our spot. No, thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wants to
Anybody else, Mike?
from the public?
Mike? Anybody else?
I don't see anybody.
No one else, Mr. Chair.
I will close public participation. Moving on. Chairman's report. As reported by staff, we did have a great opening in the sense of a new business with the end of Kmart and all those new businesses, 5 larger and about 3 smaller ones, which will be in the 10-acre mall. Very happy to see that. You all should have received also a letter from Economic Development, and I will not read it, but I will ask that it be placed on file. All of you have that letter. Did you receive it in your emails? Hearing that no one has a problem with it, then we will just file the letter. Thank you. The next matter is, we're going to go number 1. It should be noted that this particular matter is still tied up for almost 5 months in inland wetlands. It was put on the agenda back on August 5th. We would hope that this would start moving forward, but at this time it has not left inland wetlands. It is almost 5 months, like I said, or more. And we would have to table it by the very fact we have not gotten any report from inland wetlands. We do need a motion to table. Item 1.
I make a motion to table item 1.
That's Commissioner Kavalis. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Who made that motion?
Nod.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor of tabling item 1, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion,
I'm going to abstain, Rich. Ken Demers, I'm abstaining from that vote.
okay, one abstention on item 1 is Commissioner Demers. Again, all those in favor with the one abstention, say aye.
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 And one abstention, Ken Demers. And anyone objecting, hearing none, motion is carried. The next matter, number 2, under continuing public hearings, it is Attorney Franklin Phillissy on a text amendment to the Watertown zoning regulation, section number 34.14, drive-through facility. Attorney Phillissy, please.
Franklin Phillissy, on behalf of the applicant. This public hearing is a continuation. We had a public hearing begin last month, and we continued it to see if there was any additional input from staff or Public Works through staff, and I believe there is not. I have received a draft motion of approval that is consistent with the application, and I have nothing else to add, except I would respectfully request that the commission approve the application in accordance with the resolution that's been presented by staff.
Well, first, I think I will need a motion to close the public hearing.
Have to ask for public.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
And
I second it.
Commissioner Demers, do I have a second?
Mike.
Mike, is there anybody who wanted to speak?
Daniel DeVito.
He is a commissioner.
He's-
He's a commissioner.
okay, now
Yeah,
we'll-
he can't speak. He's muted, but it won't allow him to speak.
I mean, he kind of went out, and he's back, now he's coming in.
Okay, we're fixing that.
Okay.
Stand by.
Captain Camera would like to speak.
Mr. Chairman, you didn't call for public participation, and there is a member of the public who'd like to speak.
I did call for it. We closed it.
No, I'm sorry, for this application. For this application.
Oh, there is someone that'd like to speak on this? I'm sorry. Could you state your name and address, please?
Catherine self-muted, she can talk at any time.
Catherine? Ms. Kamara?
Yep, I'm on.
Go ahead.
Catherine Camera, 31 Cottage Place. Actually, I don't want to speak on this application. I
We
want
had
to,
this application before
I want
us.
to speak on the one
You missed-
before, just to say, excuse
you
me,
missed
Mr.
the opportunity. Are
I'm
you
talking about the last one
Application
because David Pope did not recuse himself.
on the application.
David Pope did not recuse himself on the last vote. I
Who's
couldn't
that?
tell you that. He's in business with Eric Markowitz. It's not
What are you
appropriate for him
saying,
to
woman?
be on that. Thank you.
Hold on.
Are you willing to speak on this matter, or what are you here for?
I can't speak if you're speaking over me.
We have a matter before us dealing with a matter of, on the agenda, item number 2. If you were here for public participation, you did not have that chance to speak. And if you would be patient, I may consider at the end of the meeting to have you participate.
Well, I would not know that, Mr. Antonetti, until I just spoke and you just told me that. So thank you. I will expect maybe you'll let me speak at the end of the meeting. Thank
Have I
you.
not let you speak at other times where you missed the opportunity to speak?
Mr. Antonetti, I didn't miss the opportunity to speak. The issue happened at the end when you were voting. There's no opportunity for me to speak when it's something that happened when you were voting. So yes, it would be nice. It actually would be very nice if this commission allowed public participation also at the end of your meetings, because then people could actually speak about something that happened during your meeting. Therefore, you don't have to wait until a month later for somebody to bring something up that really doesn't even matter anymore.
Is
So
it
This
it
is
a-
something that just happened in accordance with number 1, that was past the point of me being able to speak.
Number
So
one
that's
was,
the
number
issue.
one was tabled, so what's the problem?
You took a vote on tabling it, and one of your members shouldn't have voted on it at all,
He
because they're in business
abstained.
with the
One
applicant.
member
No, I don't
abstained.
believe I heard Mr.
You
Pope
can't
abstain.
understand
I
that.
heard Mr. Demirs abstain. I did
No.
not hear Mr. Pope abstain. Did
Who
Mr.
was-
Pope abstain?
Commissioner Polk, did you abstain?
No,
He did not.
He's in business with the applicant.
I work for the applicant.
True.
That's enough
That's a problem.
discussion on that. Motion has been tabled on 1. We're on item number 2. Please do not disrupt the meeting again, ma'am.
Please
Item
be
number
sure
2.
that people recuse
Commissioner,
themselves who
Would you
work with the
please mute
applicant.
her? Please mute her. Can you mute that person who's disrupting the meeting? Thank you. Let us move forward with our meeting. Attorney Franklin, are you finished with your presentation?
I am, Mr. Chairman. I would ask that the public hearing be closed and the commission take this matter up at the appropriate time on the agenda.
Okay, I asked at the time before we were interrupted to ask for a motion to close the,
I will make the motion, Mr. Chairman, to close the public hearing, item number 2.
thank you.
I second it.
Motion has been made and seconded. Motion was made by Commissioner Demirs and seconded by Commissioner, was it Pope or Cavallo?
Follow.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
those opposed? Hearing none, let's move on to item number 3. We have with us people who are here to present comments on a site plan special permit number 2020-07970 Main Street. The proposal is for Ion Bank with a drive-through facility. Do we have the applicants here?
We do. Good evening, everybody. And for the record, my name is Jeff Board. Hope you guys can hear me okay. Professional engineer in the state of Connecticut with Bowler Engineering, and we are located at 65 LaSalle Road in West Hartford, Connecticut. Here on behalf of Ion Bank for proposed redevelopment of the property located at 970 Main Street, for which we are seeking a site plan and special permit review for the construction of a 1,500 square foot bank. Here with me this evening and presenting a bit later on will be Ethan Shukosk of Atlantic Traffic, Tom Chadina with DRL Architects, and Greg Rosen of NES Group. Hope you guys see my screen okay? I just wanted to make sure. I know it's been up there for a while now.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
So just wanted to introduce you guys to an exhibit here. It's an existing conditions aerial exhibit, north being to the right of the page, just for the purposes of the presentation. We have, again, the site's 970 Main Street, totaling 0.59 acres in total. Zone General Business 1, BG1, and it's currently housing a 1,900 square foot structure occupied by an auto dealership.
In the state right of way.
I'm getting some feedback here. Let's see. Let's drive down. The site is bordered to the east by Main Street or Route 63, to the south by an auto repair shop in this location, to the west by a residential zone, and then to the north by an office and business district. And the biggest thing worth noting here is that the current building at 1,900 square feet is currently an existing non-conforming structure. And basically what I mean by that is the setbacks that currently exist on this site, with the front yard setback being 16.7 feet to the property line, the side yard's only 3.8 feet, and then the rear yard is 8.6 feet to the property line. And to put it in perspective, the front yard setback's actually 25 feet, the side yard is a 10-foot minimum, and then the rear yard is a 50-foot residential setback from a rear yard. So it kind of renders the site undevelopable in that regard, where you're left with a really small footprint that could barely house a small, any kind of small building for that matter. So I think you'll be happy to know that as I get into the presentation here, what we've looked to do is improve on those nonconformities, and part of what we submitted for the commission's review is a letter that kind of highlights the improvements that we've made to the site. So I'll get into that momentarily. One thing worth noting, and I don't know if you can see this or not, but the topography out here in the slopes are pretty intense. They go from Main Street or east to west, and the grade change from front to the back of the site is about 26 feet. And you can see the lines here with the topography. There's a lot of rock outcropping that comes off the corner of the building and takes up the back half of this property in this location here. So you can also see that the majority of the lot is well over 30 parking spaces and impervious coverage that extends all the way to the northern property line. There's also one existing full access curb cut on Main Street, which we are going to maintain and in fact close up a little bit so it's not so wide. It'll still be compliant with two-way regulations per the town code. And then let's see here. And then I did want to, before I get into the site plan, I did want to go ahead and thank the town staff here. We've worked closely with them over the last couple of months here, and we were set to come before you a month ago, and some of the comments that came up that were raised were pretty important, and we wanted to respect those comments and basically come back with an application that was complete, that addressed all of the outstanding town comments we've received to date, and that also we brought on a traffic engineer who will be speaking a bit later to kind of go through some of the concerns that were brought up regarding this driveway that's out here today. So we feel that by extending this out a month that we did, it provides a much more complete application that we're happy to put before you and confident that it's complying with your regulations in a much better condition than what's out there. So with that, I would like to introduce a colorized version of the site plan that is currently within your packages this evening. The only difference is we've simply added the landscaping to this colorized version of the plan, north being to the right of the page as well. As you can see here, we are proposing a 1,500 square foot bank, so it's about 400 square feet smaller than the current structure. And some of those improvements I was talking about earlier, where the existing building was right kind of where these shrubs are, we're now improving that by about 32 feet away from the property line. Where there was an 8-foot setback to the rear, we're now at 31.7 feet. So we've pulled that back considerably. And we've also pulled back a couple feet from the front yard setback, because in addition to some of the constraints I was talking about earlier, where you're rendered with just a small sliver of property that's developable by regulation, we're also hindered by the fact that the DOT had acquired this kind of triangular sliver of land here. So our setbacks are being taken, not where the normal right-of-way line would have been. They're actually taken further back. So the site constraints between the setbacks and then the rock and the excavation that's going to be needed made this small project quite a tricky engineering feat, which we're happy that we found a solution to it here. There's 10 parking spaces, 5 are required. There's 1 handicap accessible, which meets the ADA code. That accessible space is a van accessible stall. There's a drive-up ATM, which meets the code requirement for the 12 queuing vehicles, which we have shown, and that was a work with the town staff there to kind of get that to work. We did show a bypass lane as well, and we're able to accommodate the turning movements throughout the site. We are maintaining the full access driveway. It was a bit wider unnecessarily. We have it down to 24 feet. It was about 30 feet in length and width before. So the DOT will appreciate that. And as Ethan will get into later, one of the biggest concerns here was from a traffic standpoint. And this is actually one of the best locations you could be on the outside of a curve like this with regards to sight lines. And with the traffic study that Ethan and his team had put together with the recent Starbucks installation, with the viewing or the collection of data in front of our site and at that intersection, I think he'll be able to provide you with the information necessary to be confident that this is a safe maneuver as a full access driveway. All the work within the right-of-way to that end will be subject to the DOT approval. So after receiving local entitlements, we basically have to submit for an encroachment permit. So all of the work within the right-of-way will be subject to that DOT review. Fortunately, as I get into the utility plan here a bit, we were able to keep a lot of the existing laterals that are on site, which is a huge benefit to not have to go into a state highway with new curb cut or with new pavement saw cuts and have to get police detail. And from a safety standpoint, it's just much better to utilize existing laterals if you can. Landscaping, we've shown a mix of shade and evergreen trees, shrubs and ground cover throughout, which is a significant improvement over what's out there today. And to the extent that you remember the existing plan here, and I'll just go back, the asphalt extending all the way to the back corner, our development is basically only, the whole site is about half an acre. We're only taking up a quarter of this site, or half of the site rather, so a quarter acre. So basically all of this impervious you see with all of these cars that are currently parked in the DOT right of way, we're now making that green space. So not only does that benefit us from just a loss of impervious or we're reducing impervious coverage, but there's currently no water quality treatment for any of the stormwater that's out here today. And basically everything sheet flows off the site and into the roadway untreated. So as I'll get into it momentarily, we do have a pretty sophisticated water quality stormwater design here as well. We were respectful of the lighting here and have submitted a lighting plan that demonstrates compliance with the town regulations as they relate to the site or the light trespass off site. These LED fixtures that we're showing, which if you could see my cursor, there's one on the southern side, one in the parking area here, the landscape island, one in the back in front of the retaining wall, and then one over on this side. We'll buy a few canopy lights under these locations here. They are LED lights. They are IES dark sky compliant fixtures, which just means that they're downlit. There's no trespass on the adjacent parcels on the south or north. With that, I think I'll flip over to our kind of more boring plan of the two, but it's a utility and stormwater drainage plan that we've color coded. It's the same plan you guys have in your set, just colored the utilities, basically with pink being the sanitary connection. You could see that we're actually connecting to that existing lateral I discussed. Blue is the water service, same thing, connecting to the existing lateral. Green is the electric service, which is the one we're pulling from an existing pole. And then in gold is the gas, which is also connecting to the existing lateral. So it's not often we actually have the opportunity to do that, but given the fact that this was that retail auto center before, these laterals should be adequate to address tying into those utilities. And then in red, what you see is our stormwater conveyance. So as I said earlier, existing conditions, there's absolutely zero water quality treatment in place. And on a small site like this, it's actually turned into quite a complex stormwater management system, which we made work here. And not only are we treating all of the new impervious that we're adding as part of the development, we're also treating the roof water runoff at the town's discretion, putting that through an underground water quality recharge system. So basically that's been designed to not only meet the water quality requirements of the DEC 2004 Water Quality Manual, it exceeds those requirements as well. So we're connecting to the same location. It's going to a trunk line that's outside of Main Street. So again, less disturbance to the actual Main Street itself. And as you can see, the only disturbance to Main Street is a simple 2-foot saw cut line at the main intersection here, at the main driveway. That's just to put the new curb in and basically shrink or extend the driveway to a much more manageable width. There is a 22-foot retaining wall that the client is incurring the cost of here. Just given the fact, and it's similar to, if anybody's driven by the auto shop to the south there's a similar wall, and I think Starbucks had a very similar situation, but there's been other cases where had to go from a retaining wall that's about 22 feet on this back side here that tapers down to 0 on the side. So there'll be some rock cut necessary. We have had a geotechnical engineer investigate that in detail as far as how that rock is, as far as the competency and what needs to be done for a proposed retaining wall. So those retaining wall calculations will be provided by a professional structural engineer at the time of our building permit submission as we get into our construction documents here. So for a small quarter-acre site, it turned into something that was actually rather pretty sophisticated. And in fact, we were able to provide back this entire landscape area back to green space where it wasn't currently before. and then the whole half of the site is remaining unchanged. Before I turn this over to Ethan to kind of touch on traffic, the erosion control is also installed throughout the duration of construction, and that's consistent with the 2002 Connecticut guidelines for soil and sediment erosion control. There's temporary construction entrances at the Main Street entrance. There's inlet filters around all the catch basins, and there's silt fence along the perimeter on the low side that will all remain they'll all remain in place throughout the duration of construction. And what we do typically, just for the contractor's sake, for the owner's sake, is part of all of our drainage reports, which you received in the appendix. And the drainage report's hundreds of pages. So one of the last appendices of the drainage report is an operations and maintenance manual that basically instructs the contractor and owner when things need to be cleaned, what needs to be done, how often things need to be kind of updated and checked over here. So it's just kind of an updated measure from our end that instructs the contractor to leave those in place. With that, I would like to turn it over to Ethan. I think Ethan needs to be given the permission to speak here. I know he's on, but it's Ethan Chachuk from Atlantic Traffic.
Can you hear me?
I hear you.
You can't see me. Can you hear me? All right.
Can't see you, but we hear you.
Can you email for on time? All right. As Jeff mentioned, my name is Ethan Chakosky. I'm a traffic engineer with the Atlantic Traffic and Design Engineering. We're located at 2929 Expressway Drive North, Hauppauge, New York. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of Connecticut, and I've, with a focus on traffic engineering expertise. We prepared a traffic impact analysis dated November 23rd, 2020. It was submitted to the town with the most recent submission. As Jeff described, the existing car dealership is going to be removed along Connecticut Route 63. And the current access is going to be maintained. There's currently one full movement driveway along the southbound Main Street. With the construction of a 1,500 square foot bank and drive-in, there's also 10 off-street parking stalls meeting the town requirements. As Jeff described, the existing full movement driveway would be reconstructed and reduced in width, approximately 600 feet south of the signalized intersection with French Street. The driveway is on the outside of the horizontal curve of Main Street, which provides sufficient sight distance looking left and right. In addition, the existing sidewalk on the site frontage will be reconstructed to meet current ADA compliance standards, which is always a helpful improvement for pedestrians. What Jeff didn't mention is IM Bank does have limited hours. They're not open until 9 a.m. and they close early Monday through Wednesday and on Fridays. So with that, they miss a lot of the AM peak hour and the PM peak hour. They're also not open on Sundays. Based on our research and ITE research, which is the Institute of Transportation Engineers, given the size of the bank, they can only expect to generate 8 to 20 vehicles to the site during any given peak hour. Due to the shift to online banking, especially during the pandemic, there's been further reductions of physical trips to all these brick and mortar banks. Based on the existing branches in Connecticut, IM Bank expects even lower volumes and serves approximately 110 customers per week at similar sized establishments. That equates to about 20 vehicles per day. We reviewed the site access for site distance and also made some physical observations out of the site. Due to the proposed location of the driveway on the outside of the horizontal curve, as I mentioned, more than accurate site distance looking left and right on Main Street based on ASTRO criteria. That's the Association of State Highway Engineers. So that's for both stopping site distance for vehicles approaching the driveway and intersection site distance, which is vehicles looking left and right and looking to exit to make a left turn onto Main Street. Based on information relayed from the town, we also conducted traffic data collection along the site frontage on Saturday, November 14th and Tuesday, November 17th. to evaluate queuing along the site frontage.
Yeah.
We found that there was queuing from the signalized intersection of French Street that extended along the site frontage for some portions of the peak hours. Due to that queuing along the site frontage, we performed a gap study during peak hours in which the bank will be open. Based on our observations using calculations from the highway capacity manual, we found that there'd be 43 to 50 left turn egress movements that could be accommodated from the site driveway. The available gaps result in multiples of the anticipated left turns from the site. So, if you assume that there's 8 to 20 vehicles exiting the site during peak hour and half of those are turning left, you're only looking at about 10 vehicles at the most. And we found gaps sufficient for 43 to 50. So based on the vehicle gap analysis performed, the projected number of trips exiting the site can be accommodated by the existing gaps of traffic. So in my professional opinion, the proposed development would have no significant adverse impact on Main Street and the surrounding roadway network, and the left turn egress can be accommodated by the existing gaps on Main Street. I'm available for any additional questions, but I think I'm going to turn it over to Tom Tredina. Hopefully I pronounced that right. But please let me know if you have any additional questions.
I think Tom also had to be let in here. I think he.
Stand by.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Good evening.
Hey, Tom.
So we met a couple weeks ago with the advisory committee on the design, and we went through our process as to how we came up with the proposed design, and we got a lot of feedback from them, a lot of good feedback that was helpful. We took that. Jeff, I don't know if you want to jump to the next one. Just to give you some context, this is what we had started with, and the bank was, their intent is to provide and gave us the challenge to design something that was forward thinking, somewhat progressive. And the advisory committee, they were not in favor of that. So they gave us some good direction, and we went back to the drawing board and still trying to respect the bank's wishes, but also take into account the context of the neighborhood and the wishes and requests from the advisory committee. We came up with a new design that is the next slide, Jeff, if you want to jump forward. So you can see it's much more New England-like. It's centered on a, or I should say it's grounded on a main gable that is roughly 24 feet high at the peak. I think it's just under. And then it has a series of sheds around the front and actually both sides. And then it does have a still somewhat modern looking tower that's at the entrance. So the materials, similar to what we had started with, were a stone base that wraps around the perimeter of the building, and then predominantly a clapboard siding, traditional clapboard type siding, with a series of roofs that we're sort of still fooling with as far as the materials, but we are leaning towards a standing seam metal on all of the roofs. We would definitely want them on the shed roofs. The shed roofs are the lower roofs that you see on either side of the tower, and then there's actually one, if you want to flip through the other views, Jeff, there's one on the drive-up side as well. Because of the shallow pitch of those, we would like to do those in the standing seam. I guess the remaining question is do we continue the standing seam on the main roof, or do we switch to a more traditional architectural type shingle or slate, faux slate type tile? So Jeff, if you want to just flip through so they can see all the sides, and then we can flip back. There's a good amount of glass, so it's still going to be open and airy. Some of the some of the glass that is on the gable end is likely going to be spandrel glass. But again, we're still playing with that idea of whether or not we can bring any of that natural light at the top into the building. But it would still appear as windows from the street. So that's it. So the green, the tower element, that is likely going to be could be a Lucabond type metal panel, or it could be like a cement-based panel system. And I think that covers it all. Be happy to take any questions, and I know we just submitted this today, but we're anxious to hear what the advisory committee has to say also.
Excuse me.
Lettering like that? That lettering, it has to be
Guys, I think that kind of wraps up our presentation to you, between the traffic, the civil, and then the architect. On behalf of the team, I could say that we're all very, very thankful for you having us this evening, and we'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Okay, thank you.
I'd just like to say something. I think, Jeff, you and your team have done an excellent job in presenting this. You've been very thorough, and I do appreciate that.
Thank you.
I believe was Commissioner, who was speaking?
Cavallo.
Right. I would ask any member of the commission who does speak, please speak your name so that it is recorded in the minutes. That was Commissioner Cavallo's. Next, who would like to talk on the matter of the rendering or other matters? I believe Ken Demers.
It's Ken Demers. I totally agree with what Louis is saying about the beautiful design. It was extremely thorough. I just had one question for, I believe it was Jeff.
Yep.
I didn't see anything on the premises for like garbage removal. How do you go about getting rid of trash?
So basically, on our site plan, because we were limited on this 22-foot rock cut, ideally we had chatted about basically extending this wall from corner to corner here and potentially just fitting in a small trash receptacle here. They have locations where they just handle trash internally and it's just picked up because it's such a small facility. They don't generate a lot of trash. That's what they opted for here. If during construction they find that the wall costs, the problem being is it's a 25-foot retaining wall that's going to be pretty costly to build for such a small site. But that area is there if we were to need it, and it wouldn't affect any of the stormwater calcs. But for now, and before you tonight, they're planning on handling this internally, and then the trash truck would just bring it out basically on an as-needed basis.
Good.
Thank you.
Yes,
Sounds like you have a plan, so.
I
Sounds
could
good.
add to that. Jeff, I don't know if you can hear me.
Who's speaking?
This is Tom Chidino from DRL, the architect. Just to add to that, the bank does not have dumpsters because of security concerns. With the banking operations, everything is brought offsite and shredded. So the little bit of trash that they generate is taken out nightly by the cleaning staff and often brought offsite.
Thank you, Tom.
Any other questions? Any comments on the design? Any comments on the design?
The chair, Dan DeVito.
Okay, Dan.
I like the new design. I think it looks great. Also, you did a great job presenting. It was very thorough. I did have a question on when the traffic study was done.
Mute that, Dan G.
Yep. So this is Ethan from Atlantic Traffic. The traffic study was done in November. We did look at a different study, given the COVID-19 pandemic, which I imagine is where you might be going.
That's correct.
We looked at a Starbucks study that was conducted in, I believe, 2018. I can confirm that. And we compared the traffic counts to the traffic counts recorded in that previous study. From those traffic counts, we applied a factor to account for the COVID-19 pandemic in our calculations.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. I appreciate that. One other question. Will this project involve blasting with all the stone at the wall area?
That's yet to be determined. I think ultimately, from what we're seeing initially with the, it can be whole rammed out. If there were blasting that were needed, it would be limited to this area here where the highest blasting would take place, which is still a significant difference from the closest residence. And we'd be staying away, I think it was about 12 feet off of the property line. But as of now, the information we have available to us that the majority of what's needed can be whole rammed out, and there's actually probably going to be a pretty sophisticated retaining wall design that takes account part of that wall or part of the remaining rock into the wall design. So it's going to be a very interesting a wall design when we get there. But to answer your question, if any blasting is to occur, there will be specifications for a pre-blast survey. I don't believe in some of the adjacent properties that blasting was required. And again, from what we're seeing in the initial testing and rock cores that they performed, it can simply be whole rammed out and a wall built in front of the face, basically.
Okay, great. Thank you.
This is Tom from DRL again. Just to add to that, the building does not have a basement, so we'd only be looking at a shallow footing to beneath the frost line. And whether, even if we were just doing the whole ramming, if we can get away with just doing that, we would still do a survey of the neighboring buildings to make sure that existing conditions were surveyed, so that if any damage was done, we would know about it.
Correct. And then to that end as well, and you may recall from the existing conditions survey here, that corner of the building now is about 8 feet off the property line here. So the only area that we're talking about is just in this vicinity here, whereas this building's already at grade and that slope kind of dives into the building on both sides here. So if I flip back, it really just becomes this area in here that is being worked on basically or cut into.
Yep, got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Any other questions? I have a question. The fire department in an earlier design said they would have difficulty in getting around the back of the building. Has that changed at all with this new design?
Yeah, I believe we've been issued a letter basically stating that the fire department was good with our design as is with the revised plans as they're shown, and they have access in front of the building here, which is sufficient given the fact that the backup distance doesn't trigger that threshold where they're not able to back up. So they don't actually need to circulate the building, and in fact, they probably want to stay outside of any kind of fall zone from being stuck back here anyways during the event of a fire. So we do have a positive from the fire official. And one of the other things, I think the fire department's actually located just to the north here. So it was a good, they're very familiar with the site when they reviewed it.
I think you've done a wonderful job in design and also in working with this piece of property. And we are getting rid of what I consider a white elephant on Main Street. And I believe this is a super design. Your report, I was amazed there was some 7 or more pages of detailed
I
information.
need the building, but I put my code, somebody else help me to build this CVE, because I try to put my code not open.
Somebody want
Yeah. I mean, I put my the CVE, I put my code, but something wrong, it's not open.
I don't know. I don't know anything about it. Oh, okay. Thank you.
Somebody speaking there. Who was speaking?
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, that was somebody coming into our room here.
As I was saying, I think you've done a fantastic job on the property. It was a white elephant that we had there. And I think its design now is satisfactory to all of those that may have had some complaint with the design. I'd like to just stress that what we have along Main Street, or 63, is 3 different zones. We have an industrial zone at the end of 73. Then we move into a more scattered type zone up to French Street, where you move into a more village type thing. Where in the particular zone that you're moving into now, I think this is a more pleasant design that you've come up with. I think you've addressed several of the questions. The conformity with our plan of conservation and development have been addressed. And let me say on behalf of the town of Watertown and Oakville, we are very happy to see you move to Main Street. My next question is, what is happening with your building over on 63 in that particular area where Kmart was in the past? Do you have any information on that?
So this is Greg Rosen from NES Group. I do not know the answer on that from Ion. I certainly can find out, but I don't have that answer.
When you do get that answer, maybe include the date that you would be closing your facility and what would be the end result of where that facility would be up for sale or whatever lease. And maybe then you can get active and start pursuing maybe a new occupant for that particular building. As I say, we're very aggressive as a part of our planning and zoning to, when we get an applicant, to move it quickly forward and to address all the needs that the applicant has. And I think Mark Mousseau, I think you have some comments to make in working with the particular individuals. Mark?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I had given you just a couple of highlights. I had given you a basic report at the last meeting. And just to highlight, so the EDC, so the applicant did go to EDC and they made some suggestions to the Planning and Zoning Commission. And so obviously, and we haven't seen these plans before tonight, the architectural plans, obviously the bank is offering what appears to be an alternative to the original design. I think I would suggest that as a result of the final vote, that the commission consider and maybe give the bank an option, or give them a preference, should I say, for one of the 2 designs, so they can move forward with either one. I think their preference was for the original design since they first suggested it. So again, I'd suggest that the commission maybe come to a consensus as to which design they prefer. We have the application, which has developed nicely over the past month. The stormwater management plan has been fleshed out to a greater degree. The engineer had submitted the environmental impact statement, which shows conformance with the plan of conservation and development. The traffic study has been submitted, which shows no exceedance of any particular threshold that would be a cause for concern. But ultimately, the state will rule on the traffic plan at any rate. I have given you a resolution for approval if you choose to do so. And I can answer any questions if you like.
Does any member of the commission have any questions to Mark? Now, I believe, Mark, you were saying you'd like to get an opinion from the members of the commission which plan they would prefer. So we'll say
What is all that? It's unbelievable. Mr. Chairman, if I may, there's an awful lot of noise coming from various members' backgrounds. Can you please be careful of that? Check it and put yourselves on mute if you're not speaking. It's really, there's a lot of noise that's interfering with the meeting.
Okay, I'll try to make that known. Whoever has a barking dog, please ask the dog to leave. And secondly, when you are speaking, speak distinctly into your speaker. Now, my question is, number one was the original design. Number two is the new design. And if we could, by roll call, get an opinion, either one or two. Let's try it that way. This is number one, and number two is the new design, two. Starting with roll call, and I will call out if you are here, please respond. Dan DeVito.
I like the number two.
Bob Marinaro.
I always like number two.
Dan Paul.
Number two.
Lou Cavallo.
Number two.
Really?
And, Ken Demers. Ken Demers. Ken? Ken, are you there?
It looks like he's doing something.
Earth to Ken.
Ken disappeared.
Ken Demers, not here. I'll go with number two also. I think it's sort of unanimous unless Ken wants something else. Is there anybody I missed?
Dan DeVito?
Can you mute him?
I don't hear it. Ken,
Really?
Ken Demers' battery died on his laptop through a phone message I have. He will be back in about a minute or so. But it would appear that the majority of the commission is in favor of the rendering number two. Now, how does that affect, Mark? Do you have that resolution ready for was plan number one? Does that make it?
Mr. Chairman, it doesn't impact the resolution. Maybe, well, we can just state on the record to the applicant that there's a preference for door number two, and they will proceed with, I presume they'll proceed with that design.
If I can interject, this is Greg Rosen. The bank is fully in favor. If that is your wishes, they really, they love design one, but when they saw design two, they thought it was even better. So they're absolutely thrilled to move forward with the second design to help work in favor of the economic development and the overall intentions of your community. So they have no issues with proceeding with number two.
Thank you, Greg. We're all in agreement, and as I said, with some of the comments I had, this is great. It's a great design and it's a great presence for Ion, and I think it's very attractive, and I'm sure the bank will do well there. And Greg, if you could get that other information as to what will happen with your other building on 63, get it over to Mark. That will help in us dealing with an empty facility. I don't know if you heard me, Greg.
Absolutely, I did. Thank you.
Thank you, if you can do that. All right, any other comments from any of the members?
Mr. Chairman, Ken Demers has rejoined us and he has his hand up.
Ken, yes, we just did a survey of one.
Oh, I think he's voting for door number 2.
Okay. So it is.
The peace sign either one.
That's great.
Or he has to go to the bathroom.
Okay, any other comments, Mark, commissioners, applicant?
Mr. Chairman, excuse me.
Yeah.
Paul Benedich, town engineer. I'd like to have a few comments and a question for Jeff, if I may.
Where are you, town engineer?
I'm here with Mark.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, first I'd like to thank Jeff and his team at Bowler. I think they did over and above what I requested for drainage and stormwater quality and runoff issues. Considering the site drains right to Steel Brook to the east, which is an impaired water course per the deep state standards. I appreciate all their efforts. My big concern in retrospect with my second review, if you could go back to the utility plan, Jeff, for a moment.
Yep, not a problem.
Your infiltrator underground system, that reddish rectangle tucked in the corner of the retaining wall, I didn't realize until the other day that this is essentially being installed into that bank, behind the existing parking lot. Matter of fact, I think the northwest corner, which is the upper right on the plan for the commission's location, that's in a 13-foot embankment. And the infiltrator goes 5 feet into closed grade. So we're talking about an 18-foot cut for something that's supposed to infiltrate water into the ground. Now, you may find that that's just a gravel bank. I think it's, knowing New England as we do, it's highly unlikely. And anyway, I do want some soil testing done wherever the system's going. It seems to me it could easily slide towards the street like 30 feet or so it could be out of that bank location. It's just,
you're exactly right. And we have a geotechnical engineer who performed borings all over the site. So we do have a boring in this location, and we thought the same thing. We were excavating out for the wall anyways, but there's no reason why this can't shift, like you said, right into this flat spot here where there's not, even though the bank was there, it wouldn't be touching it. So we could easily do that, and all that would change is this pipe right here would go into the system on the side. So the intent of the stormwater design would remain the same. So that comment is well noted.
Okay. And there are a few other minor concerns I had, like there's the steep slope just to the right of that wall. Where you're going to have to, you asked for that slope seed mix during construction. That's going to be open. We should put some erosion control blankets on there just to stabilize the soil while the turf.
Oh, there will be, just for what we will be doing as well is once we get through local entitlement and the DOT permit process, which can take a little bit of time here, is we will be preparing construction documents. And I think a lot of those details that go with that retaining wall design will come in with a more robust erosion control plan for the final details of this wall, which will be part of our building permit set that will go along with Greg's plans as well. So any comments that come up during the construction document phase, we'll be sure to get you a set of those drawings to put your eyes on them.
Yes, that'd be great, Jeff. Thanks. That's exactly what I had in mind. Okay, that's pretty much it from my end, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Any other comments? Motion would be in order to close the public hearing on item number 3. Ion Bank.
Public participation and public. He's going to ask about it.
Okay, public participation. We didn't have any public, I don't think.
Any public, Mike?
Whose hands are unmuted, the public?
And this is on the bank, Ion Bank.
No question.
Any questions?
Any?
None, I hear none. I'm gonna move on with my recommendation that I will take a motion to close the public hearing.
I make a motion, Luigi Cavallo make a motion to close the public hearing for Ion Bank.
Motion has been made. Do I have a second? Anybody will make a second.
I'll second it, Dan DeVito.
Motion has been made and seconded by Dan DeVito. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, abstentions. Motion is carried unanimously. Let us move on to article. There's no new business, no old business. Articles on the agenda for possible action. Item number 1 has been tabled. Item number 2, Attorney Gillespie. Is there a resolution for item number 2?
Yes, there is.
I believe, Ken, you have a resolution before you on item number 2, a proposed amendment, amendments to a section 3414 drive-through facility. Do you have that, Ken? Ken Demers? Where are you?
He can't speak.
He's muted.
Ken, unmute.
He's muted, Mr. Chair. Not from our end, right? Ken? Nope. We're having technical difficulties with Ken Demers, Mr. Chairman.
He's supposed to be on his phone or something.
Let me try it. Could you get Demers to unmute to come in?
Maybe a thumbs up or down or something.
Mr. Chairman, can we have someone else make that motion?
I believe any member can make the motion to accept this resolution.
Mr. Chairman, the motion would be to waive the reading of the resolution and adopt the written resolution with all conditions as prepared by Mark Massoud, Administrator of Land Use Building Services.
I have somebody to make that motion as read by Mark.
What?
One of the dilemmas of this type of meeting, which I'm opposed to. I don't think we should meet this way, but due to the circumstances, it's the best we can do. Now, I know Ken is trying to get in. Mark just read something. One member has to support that resolution that Mark just said.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution. Dan DeVito.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I second it, Luigi Cavallo.
Motion has been seconded by Luigi Cavallo, and it is a motion on the matter concerning a proposed amendments to amend section 34.14 drive-through facility. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion is carried unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Have a good night. Next matter before us is a matter dealing with the Ion Bank and a permit number 2020.07.970 Main Street, proposed Ion Bank with a drive-through facility. I believe we have a resolution. Ken Demers, are you here yet? I guess
No,
so.
sir, he's not.
Could you reread that proposed, how it would be read?
The
Mark,
motion would be to waive the reading of the resolution and adopt the resolution with all conditions prepared by Mark Massoud, Administrator of Land Use Building Services.
I make a motion to accept that.
Motion has been made.
I'll second it. Dan DeVito?
Motion has been made and seconded. We have that resolution for all of us. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed,
Sounds like freaking outer space is trying to tax us.
is carried unanimously.
Can't mute him, huh?
I can, but I don't want to leave him that way,
Why?
so he can't talk.
Fine.
Who's he?
I don't care. Just mute him. He's not saying anything anyway.
What's the problem?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, but there just continues to be an enormous amount of feedback that's making, I don't know for you guys, but making this meeting difficult to be carried on. And we're trying to solve the problem. Sorry for the interruption.
Right.
He can't, he's on, he sees everything, he hears you. Somehow his mic is gone, he can't respond.
Okay, we don't need them. We're all set.
Well, maybe somebody can unmute him there.
Okay. The problem with Commissioner Demir says that he's been muted and he can't get in. So if somebody can unmute him, that would be good. I would assume we don't need him at this particular time, but I would like him to participate. The next matter that we have is communication and bills. I say that the communication, as I said earlier, economic development should be filed with other matters and other bills.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, who's speaking?
Angela, can you listen to me for a minute?
Who's that?
Before we continue, this is Dan Gelati. Can you listen to me for 1 minute?
Who is this?
Since the beginning of this,
You were there, Dan. Go ahead.
since the beginning of this meeting, I've been muted every time for roll call and then for key votes. And I'm concerned that this is being intentional. I've been sitting here for an hour and a half, and the reason why I haven't said anything and participated because I've been muted every time there was a vote or a discussion. And I'm really concerned that I'm being treated intentionally on this. I'm sitting here and I'm seeing the pattern from the last meeting till now. So if you want me to participate in this planning and zoning board, please, whoever's controlling the mute button, to stop muting me. I'm not causing the feedback.
Who's controlling the mute in this?
Mr. Chairman, the reason being, it appears that Dan, you're the source of an excessive amount of noise that's
feedback
coming through for whatever reason, and we're just trying to control that.
It's not me. If you listen to my audio right now, there is no feedback. I am not the source of the feedback.
It's not feedback, it's just.
And
that's not what we're getting. The indication is that it is. And so we're just trying to control.
If you could hear me right now, I'm not the source of the feedback. You're not having any feedback whatsoever right now, are you?
Yeah.
We are, actually.
Dan, let me assure you that
It's a loud humming noise.
It's a loud humming noise. It's a very loud humming noise.
Buzzing too.
I'm getting a lot of humming.
Everybody
getting extra audio, and it's not coming from my end. I mute myself when you guys are talking, and there's other feedback going on. It's not from my phone. I mute myself when there's people talking, and it's not coming from me. It's not coming. If you hear now, there's no feedback. I'm getting not one feedback. I'm getting clear audio.
Please silent.
Dan,
Silent.
Play silent.
Dan Gelati, let me assure you
Yes.
that we do not have any intention of locking you out or whatever it is. It is the horrific.
Mr. Chair, as I said, since the beginning of the meeting, I was muted for roll call. I was muted for the vote on the building. I was muted for every other discussion, and it's a pattern.
Well, whoever is in charge of that will get to the bottom of it. It is not me. I don't have control of it. It is done where Mark Poussin is in his office.
Where is he on the screen?
You watch your.
I took myself off the screen. I'm bringing myself back on. I'm right here. I'm right here. Intentionally targeted and muted from this planning and zoning. There is absolutely a pattern. I know there is.
Lord.
Well, it's not on the part of our zoning commission. So let me assure you, we will resolve it when we get to a, okay? So there's no offense, I hope. Maybe we can sit down.
Well, Mr. Chair, you have no problem hearing me. I'm no problem hearing you. But since the beginning of this meeting, I've been muted for key votes of this of the Ion Bank proposal. That's why. That's why you haven't heard anything.
Why don't you voice your vote so it's on the record?
What's that? For the record, what was that?
That was Bob Marinero. I'm just saying, if you think something's going on, vote now and get on the record. Or not.
Mr. Chair, I want to put on the record that I am being targeted by being muted intentionally. So I can't form a vote or opinion or discussion on any matter from the first meeting to now. I thought the first meeting was now the second meeting, there's absolutely a pattern.
I propose that you get the floor unrestricted right now. Go ahead.
Since I voted into the planning on this commission, I have not had any opportunity to discuss any of this matter pertaining into any of these proposals. And every time there is a discussion about the commission, let's hear me out. I am muted. And when after the voting is done, I'm unmuted. And this is a pattern.
Pattern's broken. Say what you want to say.
Well, there's I'm going to be voted on everything there was to vote on. But I want to bring this up because, like I said, it's a pattern.
Okay,
There's absolutely, you have no problem hearing me. There's no feedback going on. So that the whole freaking thing about being muted because of feedback is ridiculous now. It really is. So why am I being muted during the vote? Why was I even muted during the roll call, Chair? I couldn't even acknowledge that I wasn't even here.
We can't answer that question because we don't have control over it there. We'll talk over this matter, maybe on a more better line of communication. We're happy to have you participating now. Yes, I see. Yes, go ahead, Ken. Demir. You can't speak.
He can't speak.
Ken Demir is raising his hand. And can Ken Demir speak? You see, that's the screwy we have here. Let us go on to another matter on the agenda, which is our next meeting date is January 6th. And after that, I hope we will be able to meet live. Even if the COVID is still around, all those in favor of live meetings, bring your mask. And if we all got to die at a meeting, then everybody will be happy.
No, not me.
All right. I would like a motion to adjourn our meeting.
Forgot the public participation.
I make a motion to adjourn. I think we're done here. This is horrible.
Okay, a motion is made.
Excuse me,
I don't have a second on adjournment.
excuse me, Mr. Antonetti?
Yes.
It's Carol. I'm so sorry, but I have been muted the whole time also. I have not been able to get in to say anything or whatever, just so that everyone knows I have been muted also. And I don't want to overstep my bounds, but Mr. Gelati is an alternate member, and of course he can say whatever he wants as far as, whatever application, but he cannot vote because he's an alternate and he's not seated.
You're absolutely right.
I was wondering about that.
Right, I said.
You're absolutely right, Carol. But Mark, you have to get to the bottom of who mutes, who's fooling around, why we can't get clear sound. This is a ridiculous way to run meeting. I've said that before and I'm saying it again. Even you, Mark, in your area, you have such a large echo chamber. So you have to maybe move to a smaller room where there's not so much echo. There has to be one person who is controlling the mute, who is controlling the speaker.
Wizard.
Otherwise, you get a matter of chaos coming in. And for that other person who came in, that I could not understand what she was screaming about, was unheard of. I thought it was a banshee just screaming away on some matter that was not even relevant to the matter that was being discussed.
People have to scream, Mr. Antonetti, because you talk over us. Maybe you should let people talk.
Let us continue the motion to adjourn. I had a motion from Luigi Cavallo. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion is second. All those in favor?
Second.
Good talk.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion is adjourned. Meeting is adjourned. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Hold on. Hello? Hello? This is the people for 10 Acre Mall. I thought we had a meeting tonight.
Who's that?
It's Russell Barton.
Oh, Russ. I'm
So-
sorry, Russ.
Not a problem. Should we come in tomorrow or?
Yeah, I'm on also now. This is Dale Barton, but you guys had a tough night. Maybe we should just talk tomorrow.
Thank you for your patience. I apologize on behalf of the commission. We can communicate tomorrow. Thank you.
Yes, no problem.
Okay,
You
great.
guys have a
Enjoy.
great night.
Yeah.
Take care.
That was
Have
a
good
tough
evening.
one.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Very much, guys. Have a nice evening.
You
Bye-bye.
too.
You too, thank you.
See ya. Bye.
Yeah.